What those lacking love need is not love, but self-acceptance, the root of seeking external validation. Asterisk if a person needs to earn a lot of money to prove their worth, or needs others to think they spend a lot of money to prove they're worthy of love, it shows that this person is extremely lacking internally, because they need constant external validation to find their own existence and value of being loved. Essentially, this is a kind of love deficiency, but it's not the feeling of being loved that's lacking. It's the feeling of being recognized and affirmed. The reason for this result is that their emotional needs weren't met in their early years. Formation of self-image. There's a concept in psychology called the looking glass self, which refers to how a person's self-awareness stems from their interactions with others. Simply put, in our early life, the way our caregivers treat us and evaluate us gradually internalizes into an inner voice that dominates our view of ourselves. For example, if a child grows up in an environment full of suppression, belittlement, and humiliation, and only receives some affirmation and praise from parents when they achieve something, like scoring 100 points, this child might come to believe that their value lies in satisfying others' needs. Consequences of tying self-worth to external factors. Then when they grow up, they easily fall into an extreme. Only when I achieve success, only when I earn a lot of money, only when I become valuable, can I be loved. The consequence of this mindset is that they're always pursuing material external values, and will attribute all external failures to themselves not being good enough or excellent enough. For instance, if work isn't going well or their income isn't as high as others, they feel useless. If they can't maintain a good relationship or others don't like them, they feel their external conditions aren't good enough. But in fact, there will always be people in this world who are better and more excellent than you. If you view these values as the only measure of love or not love, no matter how excellent you become, you won't be able to maintain a healthy relationship because excellent external values can never make up for internal lack. Moreover, once you accept this cognition that only excellence or value can exchange for love, your value becomes a form of self-compulsion. Whenever you feel you have no value or aren't excellent enough, your subconscious will believe you don't deserve to live. This is why you'll find that those who are particularly good-looking or highly capable are more likely to be depressed. Why? The reason is that they're used to feeling their own value by meeting others' expectations and getting affirmation from others since childhood. So once they don't get the other person's affirmation and recognition, they feel they have no value, often falling into deep helplessness, feeling they don't deserve to live, breaking the cycle of external validation. So if you're always used to seeing yourself and others as commodities, mutually assessing value and then making a deal, you'll never feel what true love is like. You might even attract only bad people who want to suck your blood or gain some benefits from you. Because from the beginning, your way of seeking to be loved was wrong. No matter how high a person's looks, how good their figure, how superior their material conditions, these are not necessary conditions for them to obtain happiness. People who are lacking are always in an anxious state, because there will always be more excellent people. Only those who clearly understand their own value and know how to affirm themselves can correctly view themselves, avoid unequal cognition and love, and not feel insecure because others are superior to them in some aspects. So if you always feel in relationships that you're not excellent enough to be worthy of love, what you need to do is stop this thinking. Especially when you feel very anxious, or when you're suffering because of others' negation, you need to sit down and observe your feelings, then ask yourself, what am I anxious about? What am I afraid of? Recall and feel more, rather than immediately blaming yourself. But you shouldn't listen too much to some online talk about, make yourself more excellent, richer, then you'll be worthy of love. Essentially, these things treat the symptoms but not the root cause, and the more you listen to these things, the harder it will be to establish your inner self-identity. Because the only standard for growth is to break the wrong pattern and then establish a correct one. If when you were little and scored 100 points, your parents still criticized you, it only shows that you have narcissistic caregivers. They need your success to prove their own value, and you are their narcissistic tool. But now that you've grown up, you need to realize this pattern is wrong, and you need to learn to self-correct, learning self-love and true self-worth. If you still think you're that child who must score 100 points, must earn $1 million a year, must have a car and house to be loved, let me tell you, even if you earn $10 million a year in this life, you'll still feel there's an empty place in your heart. You won't know to what extent you need to work hard, how rich you need to be, to get others' love, praise, and recognition. Because you haven't jumped out of that wrong growth pattern from the past, you're still living in the state of being disliked by your parents in your early years. When you grow up, it's hard for you to live out your true self, and you'll never love yourself. You can become very excellent, you can become better, more valuable, but the premise is that you do it for yourself, not to meet others' expectations and needs. As we often say, people who lack love must learn to love themselves. What is self-love? It's not how many luxury goods I buy for myself, how much money I spend to nurture myself, but seeing yourself, recognizing your early trauma, giving yourself recognition, giving yourself strength. When your self-given strength is enough that you no longer need to seek proof from those around you, seek their recognition for you, that's when you've truly learned to love yourself. Otherwise, the healing you do is just to make yourself good enough for others to welcome you. Everyone comes into this world, and we don't get to choose what kind of parents we have. If you're not lucky enough to have parents who raised you well, then we should raise ourselves well, love ourselves. If you enjoyed this series, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your free likes are the greatest encouragement for me. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.